The Galactic Trade Council's chamber fell silent as Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the crystalline archway, her footsteps echoing against the bioluminescent walls. Around the circular table sat representatives from 17 different species, their various forms of communication already buzzing with nervous energy. The Zephyrians' tentacles twitched in agitation, while the Corvin delegation's chitinous plates rattled softly, a sound that typically preceded retreat. Chen had arrived on Nexus Prime 3 days ago, but word of her previous negotiations had traveled faster than any hyperspace courier. The stories were whispered in the market districts and discussed in hushed tones within diplomatic quarters. The human who had somehow convinced the militant Razak Empire to not only cease their expansion, but to pay reparations to their victims. The human who had turned a resource dispute between 5 civilizations into the most profitable mining consortium in the Outer Rim. As she took her seat at the table's only remaining chair, Chen's dark eyes swept across the assembly. Each being represented billions of lives, vast fleets, and economic power that could reshape entire sectors. Yet something in her calm demeanor made them shift uncomfortably, as if prey animals suddenly realizing they were in the presence of something far more dangerous than they had anticipated. Counselor Vexithara, a towering Etherian whose translucent form pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, spoke first. Ambassador Chen, we appreciate your arrival. However, we must express concern about your negotiation methods. Some of our members find them unsettling. Chen smiled, an expression that somehow failed to reach her eyes. Unsettling how, Counselor? I simply believe in thorough preparation and creative problem-solving. Creative, chittered Merchant Prince Kaldor, his insectoid mandibles clicking rapidly. Yes, that's one word for it. Tell me, Ambassador, is it true that you spent 3 months living among Razak warrior castes before the peace talks? It seemed prudent to understand their culture intimately, Chen replied, her voice carrying an undertone that made several delegates lean back in their chairs. I learned their hunting songs, participated in their blood sport trials, and discovered that their concept of honor has some fascinating, exploitable elements. The word exploitable hung in the air like a weapon. Supreme Judge Morrigan of the Celestial Courts, whose species prided themselves on logical discourse, spoke next. Your methods concern us, Ambassador. Diplomacy should be based on mutual respect and— Mutual respect? Chen interrupted, her tone remaining perfectly pleasant. Tell me, Your Honor, how much mutual respect was shown when your court sentenced the Kepler colony refugees to administrative processing that would have lasted 47 years? Or when this very council voted to deny them sanctuary because it wasn't economically viable? The chamber's temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Chen continued, her voice never rising above conversational level, yet somehow filling the vast space with predatory intent. I've read every trade agreement, every legal precedent, every cultural taboo, and every economic dependency represented in this room. Did you know, Counselor Vexithara, that your people's entire energy grid depends on quantum crystals from exactly 3 mining worlds? Or that Merchant Prince Kaldor's trade empire would collapse overnight if his shipping routes through the Orion Passage were disrupted? Kaldor's compound eyes flickered rapidly, the Corvin equivalent of nervous laughter. Surely you're not threatening? Threatening? Chen's smile widened, revealing teeth that suddenly seemed far too sharp. I'm simply acknowledging the interconnected nature of our galactic community. For instance, humanity recently discovered we have a natural immunity to the Zephyrian neural parasites that have been, shall we say, influencing certain trade decisions. We also happen to control the largest deposits of trilithium in known space, the same trilithium that powers 73% of all FTL drives in this sector. She paused, letting the implications sink in like poison. But I'm not here to threaten anyone. I'm here to solve a problem. 50 million sentient beings are dying in refugee camps because this council can't agree on burden sharing. Meanwhile, you've all spent 6 months arguing over profit margins and territorial disputes while children starve. Chen stood slowly, her movement deliberate and fluid. So here's what's going to happen. Each of you will contribute resources, technology, or territory to resettle these refugees. Not out of charity, but because I've designed a system where helping them becomes the most profitable choice available to you. Impossible, scoffed Judge Morrigan. The economic models. Chen activated a holographic projector, filling the chamber with three-dimensional charts, graphs, and data streams. I've spent the last month analyzing every economic, political, and social pressure point in your civilizations. Merchant Prince Kaldor. You'll provide transport ships because I've arranged exclusive mining rights that will increase your profits by 340%. Counselor Vexthara, your people will offer technical expertise because humanity is prepared to share our neural shielding technology that could revolutionize your species' development. She moved around the table like a predator circling prey, her holographic displays shifting to show each delegate exactly what they stood to gain or lose. Judge Morrigan. The Celestial Courts will provide legal framework because I've discovered some irregularities in your recent territorial acquisitions that I'm sure you'd prefer to address through constructive cooperation rather than public investigation. The chamber had gone completely silent except for the soft hum of life support systems and the barely audible sound of several delegates' breathing becoming rapid and shallow. Chen returned to her seat and folded her hands calmly. The beautiful thing about this arrangement is that everyone wins. The refugees get new homes, you all profit enormously, and galactic stability is maintained. The only variable is whether you choose to win big or lose everything. She leaned forward slightly, and her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Yet every being in the chamber heard it clearly. Humanity didn't become a spacefaring civilization by being the strongest or the fastest. We became apex predators because we learned to turn every situation to our advantage. We study our prey, we understand their weaknesses, and we always find a way to win. The vote was unanimous. Later, as the delegates filed out in subdued silence, Counselor Vexithara approached Chen's table. Ambassador, I must ask, are humans truly as dangerous as you've implied? Chen looked up from her notes, her expression returning to its original pleasant demeanor. Counselor, we're the species that looked at the vacuum of space and decided it needed conquering. We saw faster-than-light travel as a challenge to overcome, not an impossibility to accept. We turned the most hostile environments in the galaxy into homes. She gathered her materials with practiced efficiency. We're not dangerous because we're strong or violent. We're dangerous because we never stop hunting for solutions, even when everyone else has given up. Especially when everyone else has given up. And as Chen walked away, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber, Vexithara realized with a shiver of understanding that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tenacity. It was their absolute refusal to accept that any problem was unsolvable, and their willingness to become whatever they needed to become to prove it.